Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it is just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review a new release movie. And that new release is Pressure. This is a World War II movie. And it was just released, I think, like last week. And it's been such a weird time for movie releases because there have just been like these horror movies coming out and doing so incredibly well in the theaters, and then of course the Michael Jackson movie. And I feel like the year's release dates are all screwed up because I feel like both horror movies that came out and they did really well, they still should have come out in October. I don't like this trend and this idea that like, oh, you can just release a horror movie any month of the year. I think horror movies should be released in October. And then maybe even on Christmas too, because I think that's fun. I think, Christmas, after you're done opening your presents, there's not really much to do on Christmas, and besides eat and spend time with family. And you could spend time with family in a theater. And then you have this movie. And, usually these types of movies, and when I mean these types, I mean like Oscar bait, prestigious dramas, period pieces, war movies. When do they usually come out? They come out in November or December. They're really meant to be near the end of the year because that's when, that's near when the Oscars take place, like it's leading into the awards season. And yet they chose to release Pressure now, in May. I guess because it's near, or May, and then leading into June because Dday is obviously, it's on June 6th. So they chose to release it this time. And I feel like the release date for this movie, it really it handicapped this movie because I feel like overall, without getting into spoilers, which this is going to be a free review because there really aren't very many spoilers. I mean, you guys are literally living through the spoilers. Like if there was an alien, or there was a hyper evolved being from like 3,000 years in the future, he would want to watch Pressure without spoilers, okay? Because he wouldn't know what would happen. But for all of us present beings, okay, we know exactly what happened. Okay, D-Day happened. The weather was bad, kinda, and they won. They did a great job. The attack was a success, and then World War II was won. And we'll talk about that part too, because I think that's another built-in problem with this kind of movie now. And so what I was saying though, where was I at to begin with? Because I felt like I just went through so many different. Okay, overall, I liked the movie. I thought it was pretty good. Would I say it's great? No. It's not great. It's good in terms of performances. It's good in terms of being a solid, entertaining movie and, being pretty fast-paced. Like, I would watch this movie again. I think this was made by the same guy who did The Darkest Hour. I didn't actually watch The Darkest Hour. I never watched that. So, But I do know that, like, that was sort of probably, from what I would imagine, that was like a talking kind of movie. And this is another talking kind of movie. And so if you like that one, you would like this one. And now there are some major issues that I have with the movie. And the very first thing would be the opening in the first act. This movie suffers from the modern day, we don't care about beginning, middle, and end story structure anymore. Because the way that this movie opened, I like the opening. I mean, the very, very opening, it felt like it worked. But it just, it didn't have pizzazz. It didn't have razzmatazz. And so when you don't have that, it just kind of ruins it. Because there wasn't really a whole lot of setup. I mean, why do we want to do D-Day again? You know, like, why can't we be reminded? You know, why can't there be some sort of a lead-in? Why can't there be some sort of stakes that are introduced? Like, and listen, I'm playing contrarian here. I'm playing dumb because, not contrarian, I'm playing dumb because you can't just assume that the audience is just going to jump on board with everything. You have to tell a story. You know, you have to show, okay, this is why we need this. And they never show that. It's just these angry people dressed up in these uniforms and suits. And they're like, okay, do we do this? No, wait, do we do this? No, maybe we shouldn't. No, wait, should we do this? Oh, wait, should we do this? That's this entire movie. You could literally turn off this review right now. That is literally the entire movie, by the way. I just spoiled the entire movie. Okay, you don't even need to go see this in theaters now. Even though you should, because it's a good movie, you know, and I'm sure that the old people who are seeing it in theaters, they feel really lonely, you know, seeing this movie all by themselves. But anyways, that's my first big flaw, is that there is no beginning. There's no act one. They go straight into act two. I mean, right off the bat, they show Operation Tiger a little tiny bit. They don't really show it that much. I think that's another issue because, you know, I didn't really sense the full scale. It needs to be bigger. It needs to be more intense. I mean, this is that movie. This isn't the time to hold back so that you can have dialogue scenes and have people sitting around in rooms talking. This is the time in the opening to show Operation Tiger, whatever that was, you know. And I'm saying whatever that was, I know what it was. It was a training exercise, but, like, they didn't really show it very well, you know, and it just, it didn't do anything for me. It didn't move me. It didn't, you know, put me there. I guess if you're really invested in World War II in 2026, I guess you'll really get into this movie, because that would be the only way that you could get into this movie. Because, I mean, World War II was so long ago. We've moved on. Okay, there's a new Holocaust going on in Palestine right now, and it's going on as a result of World War II. And that's another issue, is the fact that, like, really, I think that a lot of TikTokers, I think that a lot of Gen Z, a lot of smart young people who notice, people who are noticing, I think that they're going to watch this movie, and regardless of whether you agree or not, they're going to watch this movie, because this is the reaction I had to the trailers. It's like, okay, we got to do D-Day. We got to win World War II. And what happens after World War II is quote-unquote won. Because it's really, like, subjective whether or not it was won. You know, I don't really think that when there is a war that anybody really wins. Because the fact that, you know, like, innocent people, like, people had to die, Like, people, like, it just, that's not a win for me. You know, regardless of the stakes, regardless of whatever. But you know what happened as a result of World War II? Israel was created. That's enough for me personally to look at this movie and go, fuck this shit. Okay? Modern day Israel, and basically Israel ever since it was created, it is just as bad, if not worse, than Nazis ever were. Okay? What they're doing right now is the same shit. The same exact shit. And so to show me a trailer for a movie wherein, what are the stakes? Oh, well, we gotta win this war because then we can create Israel. I don't want to see that. I don't care. If anything, I just, I'll do what I can to support Palestine, but I don't want to see more boomer slop, because that's exactly what this movie is. It's boomer slop. These boomers who love Israel, who say that Israel's our greatest ally. Basically fucking retarded people, okay? This movie was made for them. That was the target audience. Okay, and the target audience is dying off. Okay, and the rest of the audience, basically the majority of the audience, they don't give a fuck. They all went to go see Obsession. They went to go see Back Rooms. And they went to go see Michael. And this week, they're going to see Master of the Universe. Maybe. Probably not. I mean, that has Jared Lesbo in it. And you know, nobody likes Jared Lesbo. So, but, that is the real life side of things. But you can't really separate things because this is a movie about real life. And, so it's tough. Like, I went into this movie, I went into it wanting to enjoy it because I thought it would be an interesting story, regardless of the real life consequences, regardless of Israel, regardless of the Holocaust that's going on right now in Palestine, regardless of all of that. I still wanted to like this movie. I still wanted to see it for the story and the actors and the characters. And I still like the movie. So at the end of the day, I mean, if I like the movie, I think that a lot of other people would too. And so it's a shame that this movie didn't get released at the proper time. And it's a shame that, not a lot of people really heard about the movie too. I mean, marketing is hard. Marketing is hard, like, how to reach people. Really a lot of it is word of mouth, nowadays, because, you can release a trailer on whatever, but like word of mouth is a lot stronger than anything. And so again, even without like really getting into the movie fully yet, I would recommend people go see this movie. I think it's a good movie. It's not great, but it's worth seeing on a discount day. Okay? Okay, I'm gonna take my pill now, okay? Just wait. So as I was saying, the start of the movie was weak. It's a very weak start. And, a lot of modern day movies, they just jump right into the story. They just jump right in. There's no setup with the characters. It's just, okay, here they are. This is the story. And, that affects things because part of making a good movie or making a good story or a TV show is that you want to see the way characters started versus the way that they ended at the end of the movie. And you don't really get to see that this movie. Like, people are basically the same as they were at the beginning, you know, pretty much, with like one exception, which would be, or no, I guess kind of two people, but like mostly, I mean, this movie very much was like a theater play. And apparently, I think they said it might have been a play originally. It really had that feeling. Like, in terms of being a movie based on a play, this is a masterpiece, okay? Because traditionally, movies based on plays, they are literal trash, okay? They are garbage. But this was actually, I mean, it was very well made. The making of the movie, like all the production side of things, that's not why this movie wasn't great. This movie wasn't great because of the weak start. And also, I will say, look, I love Brendan Fraser. Okay, in fact, part of the reason I watched this movie is because I wanted to see and support him. But his performance as Dwight Eisenhower, I mean, look, I don't know much about Eisenhower. I do know he is one of my favorite presidents of all time, okay? But I don't know much about him. I don't know what he was really like. I trust that the person who made this movie, that he knew, that he researched, he did his work. But oh my God, guys, Eisenhower, the way he came off in this movie, he came off like a buffoon. He came off like a complete and utter buffoon. I mean, he walks into a room and he's like, "What is going on? Can we go or can we not go?" You know, like Brendan Fraser, he did the thing that he did in Killers of the Flower Moon, which his performance in that movie was so hilarious, unintentionally. Like, it was so hard not to laugh. Like, I just broke down in the theaters when I saw his performance. And he's the exact same in this movie. Like, it is absolutely hilarious because that is not Eisenhower. Like, he doesn't look like Eisenhower. He doesn't talk like Eisenhower. You know, he looks and talks like a meathead. Like a dumb meathead, you know, general guy who's like really, you know, full of himself. And I will say that I would say he gave an A+ performance, because I think what they decided to do was focus less on, you know, how he might have been and maybe more on the emotion, because it was like they were trying to just show that he was really stressed out, and he was, you know, he had to make this really important decision. But at the same time, like, you know, that was part of why the first act was so bad, because before you get to, you know, him going, "Everyone leave the room now!" Like, just constant, like, there's one scene, by the way, probably one of the funniest scenes of the movie. Unintentionally hilarious. Okay, the main guy, Stag, which, by the way, he is one of the coolest main characters of all time. He's a weatherman. He's a meteorologist. I mean, isn't that cool? I mean, he's got a mustache and everything. I mean, he actually sounds like a really interesting character. And to be honest, like, I almost just wish that he had a whole movie just all about his life, and maybe this part would just be like 1 hour out of a 3-hour biopic. You know, like, that's what I think they should have done, because I think that as a character, he was really interesting, and he was cool, and he was a main character. I mean, this movie, one of the great things about it, before I get back to Brendan Fraser and his hilarious scenes, uh, one of the things that I loved was this movie reminded us of a time where men were in charge. Okay, it reminded us of a time where, you had these badass men in suits who knew what they were talking about, who were good at what they did, and, they acted and behaved like adults, like mature adults. They made good decisions sometimes. It was really refreshing to see that kind of maturity in the characters, whereas nowadays, you just have like, I mean, did you see the new Superman movie? Like the way that guy acted, like, having a yelling match with his girlfriend and fucking, super shit, I mean, that's embarrassing. That is really, really embarrassing. And, we need to go back to the time of Eisenhower's and, go away from the time of super shits. So back to the funniest scene of the whole movie. There is a scene where, Brendan Fraser, he doesn't believe, and I'm saying Brendan Fraser because it just didn't feel like Eisenhower to me. I don't know if he was. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I have no idea. I never met Eisenhower. I don't know. I do know that he had to be tough and he had to be like that to be a general. But he in this movie, he just came off like an idiot and he came off like a blowhard. And he was totally, totally like a buffoon for the majority of the movie. Probably the only scene that I actually liked his character was when he was meeting soldiers who were going to storm Normandy, and he was shaking their hands and talking to them. I thought that was a great little scene, and it's unfortunate that it wasn't really a scene. It was just kind of like a rushed montage, because that was another issue of this movie. Again, before I go to the funny scene, was that there was a lot of rushing going on. I felt like a lot of scenes and moments didn't really get to breathe. I mean, it's a pretty short movie, too. I mean, it's only like an hour and 40 minutes. And it is so brisk. But anyways, the funniest scene, finally, everyone is at church, which that was also refreshing, too. To see that kind of open Christian support in a Hollywood movie. You really don't see that anymore nowadays. You see other things. But everyone is in church, and Stag is really depressed, and he's upset, and we'll talk about that too. And he comes to church, and, the whole movie, he's predicting that there are going to be terrible storms, and it would be impossible to invade and to do D-Day. And everyone else, pretty much, they believe this other guy who, he's like a good little boy. He as the main character says, he's gotten lucky because he compares like the weather of various years, but then he only picks out the years that that confirm what he wants to confirm. So it's basically like just a bunch of bullshit. And oh yeah, what was his name, like Crick or Kirk or something? But anyway, Stag comes to church and he's just like, whatever, I'm not gonna go in there. And then he leaves, and then all of a sudden it starts storming and raining outside. And Eisenhower, he's sitting in the church and he's like, oh shit. He doesn't say that out loud, but that's his expression the entire movie. is like he is taking like the biggest dump of all time, and he's just like, oh shit. So he gets up and he walks out of the church, and it's raining out, and the main guy, Stag, he's standing like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I was right the whole time. I mean, it was actually pretty hilarious. Like, if you just think about, like, I mean, that's literally what he was doing. Like, you have all these powerful people in this church, the future president, and then there's this guy, and he's like, yeah, it's raining out, yeah, feel the raindrops. And then Brendan Fraser comes out, and, he's standing across from him, like, 50 feet away. And it's so hilarious because, this whole movie, Brendan Fraser's Ike, he just, like, lumbers around, and his footsteps, when he walks around, like, the normal characters, you don't even really notice their footsteps. But with his character, it's like, like, it's these loud thumps. You could just hear his presence, and he stands across from him, and he looks, Brendan Fraser, he looks like Michael Myers. He's standing there, he's like standing there like a serial killer. It's so bizarre. It's so weird because it's like, is this Eisenhower? Was this Eisenhower? He's like a Michael Myers, like, just like this force of nature who just, it was so weird. And it was so unintentionally hilarious. There's no dialogue. He just walks out there and he's like, oh, shit. For the only time in the movie, he restrains himself. And there's a little tiny bit of, like, holding back. And then he goes straight back to, okay, I guess we're going to have to delay the invasion. That's his performance the entire movie. It's so hilarious. Like, I'm so happy that Brendan Fraser is acting again. Because, like, I don't know what's going on with him. Like, he used to do these roles where he would play characters like, George of the jungle, watch out for that tree. He did The Mummy. He did all those other things. The really good project that I think is highly underrated is the Frankenstein movie. What was that thing called? It was really, really good. So, the Frankenstein movie, if you guys know what I'm talking... Oh, Gods and Monsters. That is an incredible movie. And look, he did have some loud moments, but like in this movie, in Pressure, and in Killers of the Flower Moon, I mean, he just walks in the room and he's like, okay, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And that's what he does the entire movie. And now the main character is the exact opposite. He gives, I would say, an Oscar-worthy performance. I have not really enjoyed this actor before. He played Moriarty in the shitty Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock series, and I despise that show. I utterly hate that show with a passion. And so I was not really a big fan of that actor. I think his name is Andrew Scott. I'm 40% sure. But he gave a perfect performance. He stood out, like, out of all the actors, like, he just stood out he was perfect. Every single scene he was on his A game. And, his performance, like, he was the main character. If you guys want to see an example of, like, what I mean when I say that I'm tired of these movies where, you don't have a main character, you don't have a strong main character, watch this movie to see what it should be like, because he's confident. He's not perfect. He's strong. And he's able to do things himself. Like, yes, he has, like, a team. He has a lot of people helping him. But he's the main driving force. And that's something that you don't see nowadays. Nowadays, you see, like, oh, we got to go to a team. And, it's all about being on a team. And, it's just, it's getting old. It's getting really, really old. Like Superman, it was basically a Superman and Friends movie is what it was. Like, it wasn't really a Superman movie. So, another kind of weakness of this movie is the actual invasion itself. The actual D-Day sequence. Now, I've seen other better versions of this, and maybe the person who made it, he thought, like, oh, there's no way I could outdo them. But here's the thing. I don't care about those other versions. It's just like the thing where it's like, okay, what is World War II? Who are Nazis? What is this war? I don't care about what I know in real life. I care about what is being presented on the screen and what is being presented as a story. And so in this case, I don't care about those other versions right now. I want to see D-Day in full. I didn't really feel like I got that here. I felt like I got a trailer, and I felt like it was kind of disappointing because the whole movie is leading up to D-Day. And what we get is it's like a pinch of D-Day. It's like a little pinch of salt and pepper. And it's like, really? We waited, we just spent all that time in this movie to get to this? And there is kind of a funny thing that they do as well. They really wanted you to, to see, like, how bad this was, and to see, all these innocent, young boys getting killed, murdered, just, shredded on the beach. And they did this thing where they focused a lot on this one character. And it was so hilarious because, to me, it reminded me of Call of Duty. It reminded me of, like, oh, this is like a video game, and he's like the main character, because they just kept focusing on him and focusing on him. They never even gave him a name. I don't even think you get to hear him speak very much. You just get to hear him yell. And there's this hilarious moment where he takes out the people who are mowing soldiers down on the beach. And, he really goes overboard, and he beats one of them to death, or he beats them with his gun and screams. And I was like, that guy, like, he thinks he's the main character in a Call of Duty game. Like, that was pretty hilarious, too. And then the way the movie ends, too, is it's so pale, and it's so lukewarm. So the whole movie, there's this subplot about, Stag has a wife, and she's pregnant, she's in the hospital, and he does not know if she's alive or dead. And there's this really weird thing where there's also this character, I forgot her name. Her name is Kay. She was actually pretty good too, by the way. She's from Better Call Saul. She was she's Carrie Condon. She was on Better Call Saul. She was Kaylee's mom, from what I remember, I think. Yeah. Yes. I'm just trying to remember names and associations and things. her character was like the Peggy Carter of the movie. And she had a suggestion for Ike, and she said that she could go drive to the hospital and drive back to find out what's going on with his wife, and that would help his mental state, because there's a part in the movie where he clearly is just losing it, and he's cracking under pressure, and he doesn't know what to do. And, Eisenhower he doesn't even care, because really realistically, I mean, there's no time to care. Like, you have to do this mission, and you have to, figure this thing out. Like, look, like, anything could happen. It's the same thing with making movies. Like, when you're making a movie, you could focus on, like, some sort of a bad thing that happens. Like, last year, I had a bad thing happen. I had several bad things happen while making movies. But instead of, like, just focusing on that, like, just focusing on the solutions is really what helps. And so, but Ike does not let her go to the hospital. And I thought that was really odd. Again, like, that's what I mean by throughout this movie, like, Eisenhower's character, he just comes off like a meathead, like a meathead, like a just totally full of himself, and not really not really like that Eisenhower that I thought he would be like. I thought, and I didn't think that he would be like a nice guy, that he would be like this, warm, pleasant guy from, Kansas, I think he was from. But, like, the way that he acted very stupid and dumb sometimes in this movie. I mean, there really is no other way to put it. But overall, though, this movie ends up, at the end of the movie, he goes to see his wife in the hospital. They're happy, and, and then it's over. And we see the PowerPoint captions of, like, oh yeah, World War II was won. And yeah, did you guys know that? That's the caption at the end of the movie. It's like, okay, that's what happened. That was this whole story. And this was really how World War II was won. And that's history. I mean, that's literally like how the movie ends to me. That's what it feels like. So overall, again, I think that this is a decent movie. It's a good movie, and I would recommend it for the millionth time. Even though I have made fun of it, I have trashed it, I've talked about real life things that kind of make the movie hard to enjoy, and but overall, in terms of food, I just got this new ice cream. It's called Wedding Cake Ice Cream. It's Private Selection brand. So I guess you would say Kroger brand. And it's pretty interesting because, I thought that it would have like a really soft kind of taste, and it would be really fluffy and pleasant like that. And, I thought that the flavors would be good, but it turned out to be a lot different than I thought. The pieces of cake and frosting, they're pretty hard. They're pretty dense. I think that they might have made the cake denser so that it would survive being in the ice cream. I'm not really sure. I don't know. But it's not the best cake and frosting. And I think that kind of affects things. And then I think also, I don't know, it just has a different flavor than what I expected. It kind of reminds me of like if you got a strawberry milkshake with pieces of cake inside it, like that's what I would compare it to. And but it's still good. It's a good quality ice cream. And just like this movie, it's a good ice cream that, I can overlook the flaws and I can just enjoy it and have my cake and eat it too and enjoy this movie and watch Brendan Fraser yell and scream and stomp around like Michael Myers. I mean, he's taller. And let's see, how tall was Eisenhower? Because he didn't look like a tall guy. But okay, he was 5'10". Okay. Because they almost made it a point to make sure that you saw that, like, all these other characters were small and his character was big. And, he just, like, lumber and stomp around. Or in that one scene where he's just standing there in the rain. And I guess they did that on purpose to do, like, I don't know, but I thought that was weird. Because a lot of characters, they look a lot like the people in real life. Brendan Fraser is like the only one who doesn't really look like the guy in real life. And by the way, I'm not really a huge fan of the actor, but there is an actor who looks a lot like Eisenhower. Let me look up his name. Eisenhower AHS. He portrayed him on American Horror Story. His name is Neil McDonough. McDonald? I don't know. I don't know how you pronounce that. McDonough. McDonagh. Neil McDonough. Okay, he played a perfect Eisenhower. He was a little one note because, the story was stupid and, it was like this whole thing about aliens and ghosts or something. It was really dumb. But he was perfect for the character. He looks exactly like Eisenhower. And I can't help but wonder why they didn't just get him. Because he would have done a great job. It would have been fun to see him back in the role. And to see him, in a more serious story where it's not trying to be this, like, what if fantasy scenario. But still at the same time, again, I enjoyed this movie and I would recommend it. And I would also recommend the wedding cake ice cream. It's just, I don't know, like, if you want to have, like, a cake and ice cream type of flavor, I guess just get a piece of cake and have ice cream with it. Like, that really, nothing beats that, because I think part of what makes it good is the softness of the icing, the softness of the cake, and you can't get that when it's inside the ice cream because they have to freeze it, and then that hardens the frosting, and, the cake is pretty dense too. But overall, again, like the movie, didn't love it. So anyways, please like this video and comment and tell me what you thought of the movie. And then also, please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews, because like my opinions or not, I keep them honest. I keep this channel honest. And if you can't handle it, then take a look in the mirror and just reflect on that. Reflect and ask yourself, why am I having so much trouble accepting Marco's wisdom and his incredible criticism? Like when he said Brendan Fraser was Michael Myers. Why? And when you come up with your answer and you reflect and you pray, you come back to the comments and tell me what answer you came up with. And then lastly, okay, in all seriousness, if you'd like to support this channel even further, please check out our Patreon page, because that is where you can get access to a ton of exclusive content. For instance, with this review, if it were a regular review, I would have just cut out all of the spoilers, and you could see all the spoilers on Patreon. So this is like an example of like a review that you would get on Patreon, where you would get to see the whole thing, the full unedited thing, as well as a ton of other types of videos, and also my short film, which I currently am working on adapting that into a feature. So a lot of exciting stuff. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.